Alright guys, just a quick breakdown on Germany 40, a trade I took earlier this week. Let's just get straight into it. On the daily time frame, it's very clear that there's a lot of bullish pressure, prices moving to the upside. If I just go to the 4-hour time frame, I'll show you what I was looking at here. So with my thought process, we can see this area to the left where price came back to retest. So here's the area, and then price came back to retest this area. We did have a push to the upside, however, it was not very impulsive. It was quite corrective. But then what followed that was the the correction that we can see just above here. So we've got the larger correction on the 4-hour time frame, and I'll just explain my thought process on what I was thinking in the moment and how I came to the decision about my entry criteria. So on the 1-hour time frame, I was initially looking at taking an entry right here. However, for multiple reasons, I stayed out of the market just to mitigate risk. Now, as we can see here, price first came to the downside and it left a gap. However, we can see that it attempted to push off on the first attempt. It failed. It came back down. So it had a second attempt to push off. It failed. And on the third attempt, it came down very impulsively. So if I was to take an entry here on the 1 hour, the problem I would have had is if price was to trickle on further to the downside, then it would have just resulted in a loss. So what did I do to mitigate that loss? I waited for a clear push up, and we can see this on the 1 hour time frame. Price pushed up and then formed the second correction. Let's just jump to the 15-minute time frame. Now here we've got another correction, again a very similar problem. So I was looking at another entry here when price came into this area, but again I was not really interested in this one because price came down with a lot of strong momentum, and the same could have happened. So my to mitigate the risk there, again price could have just come back down, and then that would have resulted in another loss. So I waited for price to push up, give me another clear correction, and then I can look for my entry criteria. So what did we see on here? I'm just going to delete these off. So on the 15, we can see we had another correction form. Now the idea here was for price to push up to roughly around about the same length as this impulse to the upside. So if we just measure this out, I was looking for price to come up to somewhere around here, and this would have given me somewhere in the region of around about a 5.7 risk reward. That wasn't the case. What actually happened here was we had the correction, so we can see 2 touches on the top, 3 on the bottom. So we had the 1, the 2, and the 3. Price did come down impulsively. However, I liked this candle, and I can't say the same for the other candles that we had here. So now we've got the bullish pin bar retrace. So we've got the low test coming to the upside. I set my entry criteria just beneath, because on the 15-minute time frame we don't get the usual 50% retrace from what I've collected from my data anyway. So price started to push up. I set my entry just beneath, and then as it started to move away, I was very quickly able to move to break even. So it tagged me in, as you can see on here. We've got the wick that's just wicked into my entry zone. Price tagged me in, it started to push away. I immediately, when price was here, because I am on the 15-minute time frame, on the 5-minute I saw that this was pushing away, I moved to break even. So already I've taken risk off the table. And then as price started to move up, I was at one point running, oh, and this, I survived this as well. I think there was some news, some random news which wasn't listed. I don't know what that was, but we had this huge spike here. Price spiked back down and pushed back up. I was just able to survive that as it didn't tap my break-even zone. And then price pushed up further. At one point, I was running somewhere around about 4.2%. However, as price came back down again, I'd set my stop loss a little bit higher now. And then I think it was on the next candle here. Price took me out. No, not this one. And the one after that. This is the candle that took me out. So 2.7 risk reward. Profit's profit.